Throughout the years, black artists have been taken advantage of.
Right. Yeah. Talk about
and
it.
It's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice.
You're not supposed to do this in my business. I'm up here doing something that nobody else in this business has the balls to do. I'm telling you something that you need to know.
What you want to do? I don't know if I should tell you this, but I don't know who may be listening. There may be a group of people that want to get rid of me. They don't want me here anymore. I don't understand it. What do you mean? I can't talk about it over the phone. I don't know.
The media, man, it is one hell of an entity. It really can have you thinking that the bad people are good and the good people are bad.
We're listening to Mike right now. Obviously, you know, this is a really sad time right now, but we're celebrating his life. Your thoughts right now on the situation and the timing of this tragedy?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he just somebody that changed my life. You know what I'm saying? Somebody I'll always love and cherish.
I believe that they gave me a raw deal because this industry is a monster. It's the same monster that these Me Too was trying to tell you about. But they hate the monster for how it and I hate that monster for how it eats. But my God, man, it's the same monster.
What if everything you thought you knew about fame, power, and the biggest names in entertainment wasn't the full story? What if behind the smiles, the interviews, and the polished red carpets, there was something darker, quietly shaping who gets lifted up and who gets torn down?
Throughout the years, black artists have been taken advantage of.
Right. Yeah. Talk about it.
And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice. And like Mrs. Sharpton was saying, people from James Brown to Sammy Davis Jr., some of the real pioneers that inspired me to be the entertainer that I am. These artists are always on tour because if they stop touring, they would totally go broken. And it's been, the record companies really do conspire against their artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists.
Yeah.
Yes, and Tommy Mottola. Tommy Mottola is the president of the record division. He is a meme, he's a racist, and he's very devilish. Yes. So I need your support, not just for me. When you fight for me, you're fighting for all black people.
Because when Dave Chappelle started speaking more openly about the industry, people thought he was just being funny, just doing what he always does. But if you really listen closely, the jokes stop sounding like jokes. They start sounding like warnings. And then you look at Michael Jackson, a man who went from being loved across the entire world to being turned into one of the most controversial figures in history. And somewhere in that shift, you start noticing names like Oprah Winfrey and Sean Diddy Combs, people who were once close to the same spotlight, but somehow ended up on very different sides of the story. But here's the twist. What if they didn't just distance themselves from Michael because of rumors?
There have been many disgusting statements made recently concerning allegations of improper conduct on my part. These statements about me are totally false. As I have maintained from the very beginning, I am hoping for a speedy end to this horrifying experience to which I have been subjected. I shall not in this statement respond to all of the false allegations being made against me, since my lawyers have advised me that this is not the proper forum in which to do that. I will say that I am particularly upset by the handling of this mass matter by the incredible, terrible mass media. At every opportunity, the media has dissected and manipulated these allegations to reach their own conclusions. I ask all of you to wait and hear the truth before you label or condemn me. Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent. I have been forced to submit to a dehumanizing and humiliating examination by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff Department and the Los Angeles Police Department earlier this week. They served a search warrant on me which allowed them to view and photograph my body, including my penis, my buttocks, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted. They were supposedly looking for any discoloration, spotting, blotches, or other evidence of a skin color disorder called vitiligo, which I have previously spoken about. The warrant also directed me to cooperate in any examination of my body by their physician to determine the condition of my skin, including whether I have vitiligo or any other skin disorder. The warrant further stated that I had no right to refuse the examination or photographs, and if I failed to cooperate with them, they would introduce that refusal at any trial as an indication of my guilt. It was the most humiliating ordeal of my life, one that no person should ever have to suffer. And even after experiencing the indignity of this search, the parties involved were still not satisfied and wanted to take even more pictures. It was a nightmare, a horrifying nightmare. But if this is what I have to endure to prove my innocence, my complete innocence, so be it.
But because they understood something the public didn't, what if they were afraid of what he knew? Because when you connect the dots, it starts to feel less like coincidence and more like a pattern nobody wants to talk about. Michael Jackson didn't just become Michael Jackson overnight. Long before the fame, the headlines, and the endless scrutiny, he was just a kid with a voice that could stop people in their tracks. Growing up in a strict household under Joe Jackson, Michael's childhood wasn't filled with toys and freedom. It was filled with rehearsals, discipline, and pressure most adults couldn't handle. While other kids were playing outside, he was on stage, performing, perfecting, chasing something bigger than himself.
You can imagine now my understanding of the facts surrounding the MJ case, that he went to war with Sony, one of these major companies, and he was winning that war. And then suddenly the world was told that Michael Jackson is a or somebody is an anti-Semite. Michael Jackson, I think, was called all of those things. Wacko Jacko, they gave him a name.
How do you feel when they call you Wacko Jacko? It's not nice. I'm not a wacko.
The exact same tactics that they tried to use on me. Someone pressed a button and there was a full court press effort to cancel Candace Owens by trying to convince the people that she just went crazy and anti-Semitic. Thank goodness I'm not from Hollywood. They would have institutionalized me and said that it was for my good. There are a ton of people in Hollywood who, when they have tried to speak out about things that are happening to them, have received this same treatment. I believe this is what happened to Britney Spears.
And it worked. From the Jackson 5 days to his solo career, Michael didn't just become famous, he became untouchable. Albums like Thriller didn't just break records, they rewrote the entire music industry. He wasn't just an artist anymore, he was a global phenomenon.
In 1993, the very first allegation came against him, made from a screenwriter in the industry. He was both a screenwriter and a dentist, named Dr. Evan Chandler. It was based in Los Angeles, and his accusation was that Jackson had his 13-year-old son, Jordan. Horrific. Now, how this came about was that Jordan told his psychiatrist that Jackson had him, and then the LAPD began a criminal investigation. But the investigation actually found no physical evidence against Jackson, and it was closed. The case was closed less than 1 year later. Now, that should have stopped the media from reporting on it. Michael Jackson wasn't guilty, but we know the media has never let facts get in the way of them having a good time. They broke the allegations worldwide, which led Michael Jackson to cancel the second leg of his Dangerous World Tour in August of that same year, and he cited health issues, health problems that were stemming from the stress of the entire scandal. And do you want to know what actually added to the stress? This is actually horrific. His sister, LaToya Jackson, came right out and she said, yup, Michael Jackson is a But then something weird happened. She didn't provide any evidence. She didn't even attach that statement to a story. And when people prodded her about that, why did you say your brother is She admitted that it was her husband who had forced her to make that statement.
But success like that comes with a cost. The higher you rise, the more people are watching, the more money involved, the more control others want. And that's where things started to shift. Behind the scenes, Michael wasn't just performing, he was learning. He was studying contracts, ownership, royalties, things most artists never get the chance to fully understand. And the more he learned, the more uncomfortable he became, because he started realizing something most people never see. The industry that made him didn't actually belong to him. He began speaking out, carefully at first, talking about how artists, especially Black artists, were being used, how they poured their lives into their work, only to watch others profit from it long after they were gone.
His father, Dr. Evan Chandler, did in fact drug his child into making the allegation about Michael Jackson. I'm going to read you directly from an article about what Dr. Evan Chandler did. It reads, on August 2nd, 1993, dentist Dr. Evan Chandler was extracting a tooth from his own son, Jordan, when he did something unusual. Under the supervision of an attending anesthesiologist, Dr. Chandler injected his son with a dose of sodium amytal, a barbiturate. Although in pop culture it has sometimes incorrectly been called a truth serum. It is not normal to use sodium amytal to pull a tooth. In fact, it is a psychological drug with sedative and hypnotic effects. Oh, totally normal situation to drug your child, to sedate him with a drug that produces hypnotic effects, and then to ask him, did Michael Jackson you, to which your drugged and sedated son says yes. That is the actual story about how this allegation came about. And once his son said yes and he recorded that, Evan Chandler then demanded $20 million privately from Michael Jackson. He didn't go to the cops, he went to a lawyer. He said, I won't make this public if you give me $20 million. If you don't give me $20 million, I'm gonna make it public. And Michael Jackson told him to kick rocks, allegedly. And then he had his lawyer go back and say, okay, what about if it's just $1 million? And by the way, at this point, it says that his lawyer was like, hey man, but like, you know, if your son was maybe go to the cops, right? Like, don't just have me negotiating with the king of pop, like you should go to the cops. And he's like, you just keep negotiating, unbelievably. And during this time, he took his son to a psychiatrist. We love psychiatrists on this show. And he made his son describe graphic details of what Jackson had done to him, but didn't do to any of the other boys who were also present for the sleepovers. You know, Jordan's mother at this point, June Schwartz, she and her new husband thought, you know, I think maybe he could be telling some lies. My ex-husband, maybe he's not that honest of a person. And so Jordan's stepdad, a man named Dave Schwartz, decided to confront him, to confront Dr. Evan Chandler. And not just to confront him, but to record him speaking about what he was going to do to Michael Jackson and co. Take a listen to Dr. Evan Chandler, the dentist, in his own words.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. And I'm not believe that he will not believe what's going to happen. And beyond worst nightmares, that's one more record.
This attorney I found, I mean, I interviewed several, and I picked the nastiest son of a I can find. Once I make that phone call, this guy is just going to destroy everybody in sight.
At the time, people didn't take it too seriously. They thought it was just another celebrity complaint, but it wasn't. Michael wasn't confused. He was aware, and awareness in a system built on silence can make you dangerous. Now fast forward to the moments people rarely connect. When Dave Chappelle walked away from one of the biggest deals of his life, people were shocked. Why would someone leave that kind of money behind? But Dave later explained, it didn't feel right. The pressure, the expectations, the control. It started to feel like he was losing himself. And the moment he stepped away, the narrative changed. Suddenly, he wasn't brilliant anymore. He was crazy. And that's where things get uncomfortable.
Story, and I know one of your attorneys held a news conference. There was a story about you wanting to have a little white boy play you in a Pepsi commercial.
That is so stupid. That's the most ridiculous,
horrifying story I've ever heard. It's crazy. I mean, why? Number one, it's my face as a child in the commercial. Me, when I was little. Why would I want a white child to play me? I'm a black American. I'm proud to be a black American. I am proud of my race. I am proud of who I am. I have a lot of pride in who I am and dignity. That's like you wanting an Oriental person to play you as a child. Does that make sense?
No.
So please, people, stop believing these
Michael,
horrifying
then
stories.
let's go to the thing that is most discussed about you, I think, is the fact that the color of your skin is obviously different than it was when you were younger.
Yes.
And so I think it has caused a great deal of speculation and controversy as to what you have done or are doing. Are you bleaching your skin? And is your skin lighter because you don't like being black?
Okay, number one, as I know of, there is no such thing as skin bleaching. I have never seen it. I don't know what it is.
Well, they used to have those products growing up. I used to hear, always use bleach and glow, but you'd have to have about 300,000 gallons.
Okay, number one, this is the situation. I have a skin disorder that destroys the pigmentation of the skin. It's something that I cannot help. Okay, but when people make up stories that I don't want to be who I am, it hurts me.
So it is.
It's a problem for me, okay? I can't control it, okay? But what about all the millions of people? Let's reverse it.
Okay.
What about all the millions of people who sit out in the sun to become darker, to become other than what they are? Nobody says nothing about that.
So when did this start? When did the color of your skin start to change?
Oh boy, sometime after Thriller, around Off the Wall Thriller.
And what did you think? I mean,
it's in my family. My father said it's on his side. I can't control it. I don't understand. I mean, it makes me very sad. I don't want to go into my medical history because that's something that's private, but that's the situation here. So please, when people see something like that.
I just want to get this straight. You are not taking anything to change the color of your skin.
Oh God, no.
You did not purposely.
We're trying to control it, and using makeup evens it out because it makes blotches on the skin, and I have to even out my skin. But you know what's funny? Why is that so important?
Because Dave himself has pointed out this exact pattern. The moment someone stops playing along, the labels begin. Unstable, difficult, problematic. Now think about Michael. Before the major accusations, before the media frenzy, he had already started speaking out about the business, about ownership, about power. And right after that, everything changed. The allegations didn't just appear quietly, they exploded. Headlines everywhere, stories repeated over and over until they became part of his identity.
But for me, this moment transcends Michael Jackson. It is much bigger than any one person.
Oprah Winfrey opened up about her decision to speak to Michael Jackson's accusers for her After Neverland special when she stopped by The Daily Show on Wednesday night. Last month, Winfrey made headlines when she sat down with Michael Jackson accusers for Oprah Winfrey Presents After Neverland, which aired on HBO following the explosive documentary about the singer titled Leaving Neverland.
If they ever found out what we were doing, he and I would go to jail.
Winfrey said of her decision to do the special, "I haven't had that much hateration since I did the puppy episode with Ellen DeGeneres, aka the episode in which DeGeneres came out as gay." The talk show host continued, "But when I saw that documentary, I realized that a lot of people are going to be triggered by watching it, and a lot of people will not understand what the pattern is." Winfrey explained, "People call it but there is a big seducing that goes on, and that was important enough for me to take the hateration for."
But here's what makes people pause: the timing. What nobody expected was how quickly the world turned on him. The same man who was once celebrated as a genius suddenly became a target of jokes, suspicion, and endless criticism. And while all this was happening, figures like Oprah Winfrey played a major role in shaping public opinion. Her interviews weren't just conversations, they were events. When she sat down with Michael, millions watched. And while some moments felt supportive, others felt like something else entirely, almost like a quiet shift in tone. Years later, when new accusations surfaced, Oprah didn't stay neutral. She leaned in, hosted specials, amplified voices, and even when parts of those stories were questioned, there was no major correction, no balancing of the narrative. just silence.
Even though we're on a cruise, is watching all the newses and reading all the newspapers. And she said, something's happened to Michael. I don't think it's good. And it scared me because in 1998, I think that was the year, I was in another hotel room. Gail was in, and Gail called and said, something's happened to Princess Diana. I don't think it's good. So when I heard that, immediately I thought, oh my God, could it be? And so we were all stunned. And
did you ever consider going to either the memorial service or the funeral?
No, I did not consider going to the memorial service or the funeral because I did not consider myself to be a friend of his. And I didn't want to be one of those people showing up just because it's Michael Jackson. So no, I didn't, because I was not a friend. I was someone who had interviewed him and at the time really had a lot of compassion for him. Mm-hmm. And
those feelings about him changed over the years?
The feelings didn't change. In terms of my sense of compassion for him, what I felt was a sense of sadness. I never knew, what the truth was.
Now bring Sean Diddy Combs into the picture. Publicly, Diddy has always shown respect for Michael, praised him, acknowledged his greatness. But if you pay attention, there's always been a certain distance, a carefulness in how he speaks.
The media, man, it is one hell of an entity. It really can have you thinking that the bad people are good and the good people are bad.
Because people at that level, they know things. They see things behind closed doors that the public never will. And according to multiple insiders over the years, the industry isn't just about talent. It's about control, about knowing who holds power and who doesn't.
We're listening to Mike right now. Obviously, this is a really sad time right now, but we're celebrating his life. Your thoughts right now on the situation and the timing of this tragedy?
Yeah, I mean, he's just somebody that changed my life. You know what I'm saying? Somebody I'll always love and cherish.
Michael, at his peak, held something very rare. Not just fame, leverage. He owned music. He understood contracts. He had influence that stretched far beyond the stage. And when someone like that starts questioning the system, it doesn't just make people uncomfortable, it makes them nervous. Dave Chappelle once described the entertainment industry as something that builds people up just to tear them down when they stop cooperating. And when you look at Michael's story through that lens, it hits different.
They were celebrity-driven parties. I happened to come in at a time where he was throwing his 50th birthday party, and they spent millions of dollars building this outside structure in his backyard in Los Angeles. I couldn't believe, wow, I'm a part of this now. It was so, again, exquisite. It was just huge.
But the gloss quickly wore off as his tasks became more sinister. Phil was not only ordered to source a constant supply of drugs for Diddy, he was then forced to carry them around the country.
So we had a laundry list of items that needed to be with us at all times. We'd have the marijuana joints on us. We would have the mushrooms on us. We had a kind of a Diddy pack is what they would call it. And we would keep a satchel on us, and that's what we would have in that satchel.
Always on call, Phil witnessed many things he now wishes he hadn't. He says he worked on the periphery of Diddy's now infamous parties known as freak-offs, although he knew them by another name.
They were referred to me as Wild King Nights. And what a Wild King Night was when him and a guest would go to a hotel room or be at his home, his bedroom, and they would have intimate gatherings. I would have to go and prep that hotel room, which consisted of baby oil Astroglide, candles, incense, liquor, lights, tons of toiletries, drugs.
Phil wasn't in the room for the parties, but he didn't have to be. He knew exactly what went on behind closed doors because one of his jobs was deleting the very incriminating videos of the Wild King Nights from his boss's iPhones and iPads.
I thought he was this clean businessman who rise to the top because he was such a powerful and, smart, educated man. I had no idea that he had this other side to him. And when I started to get exposed to his lifestyle, I started to really realize, this guy has an addiction. It's not just, once every few weeks, it's every day, every hour.
Because suddenly, it's not just about accusations or headlines, it's about what happens when someone refuses to stay silent. The media didn't just report on Michael, they reshaped him. The nickname Wacko Jacko, the constant jokes, the strange framing of his behavior, it all slowly turned him from a human being into a character. And once that happens, people stop asking questions. They just accept the story. But here's where things get even more unsettling. While Michael was being torn apart in public, other powerful figures faced controversies of their own, and somehow the coverage felt different, softer, more forgiving. Take situations connected to Oprah's leadership projects, controversies that involved serious concerns, yet the narrative often focused on her intentions, her efforts, her image as a mentor, not a villain, never a villain. Compare that to Michael, where even unproven claims became permanent stains on his legacy. That contrast, it doesn't sit right with a lot of people. And Dave Chappelle has hinted at this kind of imbalance more than once.
When some people think Oprah Winfrey, they think Harvey Weinstein because they have been linked together so often. First off, Oprah and Harvey have been friends for over 2 decades. A lot of people use the argument that she didn't know about what he was doing, but that's impossible because everyone's known about Harvey Weinstein's reputation ever since the 90s. If you guys don't know who Harvey Weinstein is, he is a major film producer who is pretty much the face of the Me Too movement because he was called out by a bunch of different actresses who he violated. When he was getting canceled and exposed for everything that he has done, Oprah allegedly called him and offered her support. Even though Oprah's team denies this, I believe it because Oprah has been close with Harvey and she has showed him some sympathy over time. Even though he is a disgusting man and he deserves to rot in jail. But I don't understand why Oprah wants to be best friends with someone like Harvey Weinstein. They had a very warm friendship, and the photos show. Some people actually believe that Oprah convinced some actresses to hook up with Harvey Weinstein. And actually, Rose McGowan tweeted out, "I'm glad more people are seeing the ugly truth of Oprah. I wish she were real, but she isn't."
He's talked about how the system protects certain people while completely destroying others, not based on truth, but based on usefulness. So when you ask why someone like Oprah or Diddy might have kept their distance from Michael, it might not be as simple as belief or disbelief. It might be about survival.
I believe that they gave me a raw deal because this industry is a monster. It's the same monster that these Me Too was trying to tell you about. But they hate the monster for how it and I hate that monster for how it eats. But my God, man, it's the same monster.
Because aligning yourself with someone who's being targeted, especially someone who knows how the system works, can put you in danger too. And Michael, whether people admit it or not, knew a lot. You can hear it in his speeches, the way he talked about ownership, about injustice, about artists being controlled and discarded. He wasn't guessing, he was speaking from experience. And that kind of truth, especially when spoken publicly, can make powerful people very uncomfortable.
Evan Chandler, the person who started this initial allegation, he's no longer with us because he was he committed in November of 2009, just 5 months after Michael Jackson was overdosed. Yeah, Evan Chandler shot himself in the head. There were absolutely no witnesses. There was no note, and he was found by his building concierge. That's just a fun little update for you. But back to Michael Jackson, because even though, like I said, that never went through, they dropped this case in less than a year, the media kind of saw that there was this squeeze on Michael Jackson, but then they let it go. There were no more allegations against Michael Jackson until almost 10 years later, when suddenly there was an explosion of allegations against Michael Jackson. And I want you to remember that year, 2003, is when it began. It began when a boy named Gavin Arvizo accused Michael Jackson of child, saying that he was under 14 at the time of the alleged crime. The singer was then charged because of this allegation with 7 counts of child sexual abuse and 2 counts of administering an intoxicating agent. What does the public actually remember from that time? What do you remember from that time? Well, we remember that Michael Jackson was wacko jacko, that he was crazy, that he was addicted to drugs, whatever his doctor was injecting him with. Here are just some of the headlines: wacko jacko, backo jacko, raid, wacko jacko, jacko on the attacko. I mean, this is like seared into my memory. I'm sure it's seared into your memory as well. This is what I remember. And I also remember that he was anti-Semitic. Yeah, there were headlines calling him an anti-Semite, saying that he hated Jews. And by the way, they had evidence because, so weird, but his doctor who overdosed him also recorded Michael Jackson while he was also clearly sounding like he was high on drugs. Maybe his doctor gave him drugs and then spoke to him. And somehow this recording this conversation between him and the doctor made its way out into the public.
The emotional weight of all this is something people often overlook, because beyond the headlines, beyond the debates, there was a man at the center of it all. A man who once brought joy to millions, now constantly defending himself, isolated, misunderstood, and under relentless pressure. Imagine waking up every day knowing the world is watching you, judging you, questioning everything about you. Imagine seeing your name turned into a joke, your legacy reduced to controversy. That kind of stress doesn't just affect your career, it affects your soul. Michael's relationships suffered, his trust in people faded. The same industry that once celebrated him now felt like a place he had to survive. And when he spoke about feeling targeted, about feeling like something bigger was at play, some people dismissed it.
You're not supposed to do this in my business. I'm up here doing something that nobody else in this business has the balls to do. I'm telling you something that you need to know. I'm trying to explain to you what you're seeing. You don't understand what you're seeing. I am publicly flogging a network. And I know that this network, they watching me and they saying, why are you doing this so publicly? Doesn't feel good to be flogged publicly. Oh, believe me, I know exactly how that feels. When I quit my show, they said I was crazy. What was crazy about it? I just didn't want to do it anymore. And everybody calls me crazy. You know, I mean, it was just...
You're hearing on the news things like he's gone crazy, which that didn't sound right, you know? And
well, you know, maybe I know stuff people don't want me to talk about. So
right.
We're going to what other people believe. So they'll call me crazy. Mm-hmm. But it was a weird thing to get called crazy. At first it was scary. And then now I feel like it's liberating. Like, I feel free, like I can just say what I want to do. They already call me crazy. I can't hold myself accountable for these things. I'm crazy. I can't be held responsible. Yeah. Couldn't control myself.
Yeah. What was the reason that you went to Africa? Was there a reason that you decided to go to Africa?
Well, there are a few reasons, but I mean, you know, if you a black dude trying to hide, Africa is a good place.
But others started paying closer attention. Because when you look at the pattern, when you listen to voices like Dave Chappelle, when you compare how different people are treated under similar scrutiny, it raises questions. Hard questions. Questions about power, about control, about who gets protected and who gets sacrificed. And maybe the most uncomfortable question of all, was Michael Jackson just a troubled star caught in controversy? Or was he someone who saw too much, said too much, and paid the price for it? At the end of the day, nobody can rewrite the past completely. The truth in stories like this is often layered, complicated, and hard to pin down. But one thing is clear. The way narratives are shaped, the way people are presented to the world, it's not always as organic as it seems. Sometimes it's guided, sometimes it's controlled, and sometimes it's weaponized. Dave Chappelle didn't just walk away from fame for no reason. He saw something that didn't sit right with him, and instead of staying silent, he stepped back. Michael Jackson didn't just speak out randomly. He understood the system he was part of, and he chose to question it publicly. And figures like Oprah and Diddy, they navigated that same system, but in very different ways. So maybe the real story isn't just about fear, it's about awareness.
Back in 2007, Oprah Winfrey thought it would be a good idea to open up a boarding school in South Africa. She was inspired by Nelson Mandela and made a promise to him that she was going to create this school. The academy is called Leadership Academy for Girls. Actually, the government of South Africa was against Oprah opening this school because it's an extremely expensive place and the population there is extremely poor. But yet, she opens this school and it's got salons in it, it's got gyms in it. I mean, some people think that this was a place for kids to be human trafficked because they would go and get them ready there for sale. And honestly, we don't need to talk about that conspiracy, but we need to talk about the scandals that have gone down at this school.
These are my girls. These are my girls.
Okay, look up, man.
So Oprah built this $40 million school in South Africa, and they had 152 students attend. Oprah actually handpicked the 152 students who attended her school, but it wasn't long until some of these students were being harmed by one of the employees of the school. Her name is Virginia, and she was 27 years old at the time, and she was charged with 13 counts of getting inappropriate with the kids. Virginia got physical with at least 6 students aged 13 to 15. So these students were handpicked by Oprah to go and live at this academy, and one of these employees who is managing the dorm is physically touching them and doing things to them and harming them. This was a bad look for South Africa because they have had a problem with children being harmed at school by these employees. But ultimately, Oprah put them in this situation to be harmed by this employee.
Because when you truly understand how something works, you have 2 choices: play along or speak out. And as history has shown, speaking out can come with a price most people aren't ready to pay. So the next time you hear a story about a celebrity being crazy or problematic or suddenly turning into the villain, take a moment, look deeper, ask yourself, who benefits from that narrative?
That wasn't the only scandal that came out of Oprah's school, because ever since it's been open, there's been scandal after scandal. Less than 2 years later, there was another incident where some students were getting physical with each other, and there was a 15-year-old who urged to these victims to keep everything on the down low and not to tell their parents or investigators what happened. So 7 students were suspended from the school, and these girls were alleged to have been intimidating others into partaking in inappropriate behaviors. A letter sent to one of the suspended girls' parents reportedly read, "You have been found guilty of physical contact of an intimate nature with another person on campus, bullying of other girls on campus, and of being dishonest by not telling investigators the whole truth." So I don't understand why Oprah just went to this school like less than a year ago to fix things, yet this is still going on. I mean, how does this 15-year-old get away with preying on their schoolmates and coercing them into lying to officials about it?
And what might be happening behind the scenes that we're not being told? Because sometimes the loudest stories aren't the most truthful ones, and the people being silenced might be the ones who understood everything all along. So when you step back and really look at everything, the rise, the fall, The headlines, the silence, it leaves you with a feeling that something about this story was never fully explained. Because Michael Jackson wasn't just another celebrity caught in controversy. He was someone who reached a level of power and awareness that very few artists ever touch. And once he started speaking differently, once he began questioning the system instead of feeding it, everything around him began to change. And when voices like Dave Chappelle start hinting at the same patterns, when you see how carefully people like Oprah Winfrey and Sean Diddy Combs moved around that situation, it makes you wonder if there's more beneath the surface than we've been told. Maybe fear isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like distance, silence, or choosing not to ask certain questions. And maybe the biggest lesson in all of this isn't just about Michael. It's about how quickly the world can turn on someone when the narrative shifts, how easily truth can get buried under repetition until people stop questioning it altogether. So now the question is in your hands. What do you believe really happened? If this video made you think differently or opened your eyes even a little, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust me, this story doesn't end here.